Hello and welcome back to Ivy's Stressin podcast. We are here with our fourth and final episode where we're going to be talking about universities. But it's not just universities in general. We're not going to be giving you a list of everything available in Ontario. We are going to be giving a personal touch to the podcast and talking about our future, our fears, our hopes, the advice we have for kids that are coming into IB and who are eventually hopefully going to graduate with IB credits and go into university or whatever you want to do in post-secondary. And we're gonna end our podcast off with a special little tidbit that you haven't seen before, so make sure to stick around. Um, we are joined by Hanya, Joanna, Iris, myself, Mariam, and Tina, and we hope that you enjoy this episode because it will unfortunately be our last one. So let's get right into it. Everyone say hi. Everyone say hi. Who wants to go after high school? And so I'm gonna start off. I'm really hoping to go into the Women and Gender Studies program at U of T. It honestly looks like an amazing program and it lines up exactly what I'm looking for, and so I think I'm going to accept that within the next week. Yeah.
That sounds really exciting. So my plan for the future is also to attend university. I'm looking at more like life science oriented programs or biomed, and I've still yet to decide where to go, but looking forward to it.
So I'm a little indecisive, and I can't really decide my entire career path. I used to say age 17. I just realized I'm 18 now. So what I've done is I've applied to like a good range of like social science as well as like the raw science programs. I'll see what I like. If I don't like it, we transfer, which is very much an option.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's definitely some sort of grad school. What kind, I'm not sure. That's also okay. You can decide that later on. So that's generally the direction I'm heading in.
As far as I go, I just apply to social sciences and humanities because I am very much not good at any of the health sciences or, the natural sciences. I applied to U of T and McGill in Canada, so these are my top two choices. But I did also apply to a few universities in Europe, in the Netherlands specifically. So I am going to be giving you advice about that.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm looking to get a BBA, a Bachelor in Business Administration, at the end. For the actual majors I'm applying to, it's a mix between like pure business as well as some economics, as well as one that's a mixture of philosophy, political sciences, and economics, which I'm excited for. And then hopefully after my undergrad, I'm going to go on to get either go on to law school or MBA. Those are the routes that I'm taking.
Okay, so although I'm a special existence only here for the chat, I'm going to share my university goals. So currently I am still trying to decide between either engineering and architecture. So my top choice is Waterloo Architecture Engineering. Not a super popular program, but so if I go to U of T, which already has an offer, I will go on to possibly grad studies. And then if I just go to Waterloo, then I'll head off to workspace.
So as you can see, like from the 6 people on this podcast, you have a range of university and career options. And I think that the biggest 2 takeaways here was that 1, follow your interests. I think we were all really clear about the fact that we aren't into some things and we're very into other topics, and go for that. And the other thing is, it's not like the end of the world if you make a decision that you don't like. It's so easy to transfer. It's so easy to pick something else. Don't stress yourself out at the age of 17 by picking a career and assuming that's going to be the rest of your life.
Going off of what Layla said, I wouldn't say it's easy to transfer, considering you would have to start a whole new program all over again. But it's not something that's impossible. So you do really have to, focus on something that you like, but you also need to be very careful with that because, for example, something that I would have liked to pursue is English language and literature in university, but I don't want to live under a bridge. So as far as that goes, I will not be pursuing such a career. So there has to be a balance between, and obviously I do like to do, and at the same time, something that is going to have an actual good outcome for you. So there definitely needs to be thinking that goes into that.
Yeah, Yohan is absolutely right. It's not as easy as it made it sound. But I'm just saying, it's not the end of the world if you. I know some people who have like started university and decided, oh, I absolutely hate this. I cannot do this program anymore. In that way, it's okay. But she absolutely makes some like a really important points. So I want to like know, what are your hopes? What are your hopes? We're leaving high school. We're leaving a system that we've been in for 12 straight years. Like, what do you guys want to get out of this?
Okay, so for me personally, besides all the academic ambitions and whatnot, like that can hold back. Like that's a secondary thing. I sort of want to become, how do I explain this? The kind of person that 12-year-old me would like stand, like see as a role model. That really put together. Some kind of person you come across on Pinterest, and then also in terms of like emotional growth, like becoming more well-rounded and then more independent as well. I feel like I've been like a spoiled little kid my entire life. There's like that element of being more independent. I say as I go to university 40 minutes from my house. But there is that idea of being independent. And in terms of actual university life, I want to get more than the academics that university involves. What's the word I'm looking for? Offers that universities offer. So, getting involved in clubs, making connections. Half the world works on networking, guys. Work on that. Definitely things like that. I want to find, I'm dragging this song along a little, but I want to find that tight-knit group of friends in university that, carry along until you're like 45, still meeting up, reminiscing on like your second year. Those are my hopes for university.
I'm hoping that out of high school, I will be that person. Because me and Hanya are going to the same university. Meet up with me in a cafe in 30 years. We're going to talk about life. That's the goal. It's kind of, no, but I definitely agree. Like, it's kind of scary, but also so exciting, the idea of getting to meet new people after, like, this many years of being with the same friends and whatever. Especially since we've been at our house for, like, all of quarantines. We haven't even seen new people. And this is going to be, like, what? People from all over the world, all over the like province. I don't know. That's my hope, is that I find friends that really like keep the friends that align with me, but find friends that really really make me feel like I'm at home.
When it comes to my dreams, I try to be a little bit more careful with them because in terms of wanting a change, as Layla talked about, meeting new friends, having a new experience, I think that's something a lot of people desire, especially after university. After high school. And that is something that a lot of people look forward to, expectations on simply an image that we have of a university or of life in another country. Because, I'm someone who's had experience with wanting to move somewhere or to change life circumstances. And that's building sort of a wall around yourself and thinking that you're going to be fine when you get out of high school. Well, that's not necessarily the case. You have to be careful because ruined expectations do hurt a lot. But with my dreams specifically, I would say to make bank. I would say make money. Some people have, the wish to learn a lot, and so do I. But money is what makes the world go round.
I think mostly for me, just generally by principle, I feel like at the end of university, I just want to be without any major regrets. Like, I don't want to look back in my university years and be like regret like some choices that I've made. So I'm really hoping that like in university, I become someone who really goes for it. Takes the opportunity, grows and all that. But yeah, I just don't want to go down that route of like looking back and seeing like full of regrets. So we're going to be doing a lot of things in uni. unless we transfer.
My hope is definitely sorry. My hope is to overcome procrastination in university because that's like what is killing me right now, and I feel like as long as I get rid of the bad habits right now, I can definitely succeed. And because I feel like I have so far built a quite strong mental state for myself, and I'll be happy no matter what. So I'm not concerned about being in misery in the future whatsoever. But yeah, I agree with Joanna. I want to like making money is my top concern because otherwise I'm not concerned.
Another thing I wanted to talk about was something that Joanna brought up before. It was about like within the IB program, it's kind of difficult for us to understand like how or where we stand in terms of our academics. Like we kind of don't know whether we're actually good at a subject or not because of like the entire mark scheme and everything. Like you could know an entire topic by heart and still fail a test just because you didn't know like a specific term.
I definitely
think that
understand that. It really creates this feeling of like imposter syndrome almost, because you don't know if you're like really good at something or if you're just like doing well. I don't know if do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I was saying. Do I really know how to write an internal assessment, or am I BSing all of it and just somehow getting a 7? Like I don't really understand.
Especially with COVID and like unforeseen circumstances, because they have to allocate marks, they have to up some people, reduce other people. So there's definitely a very weird dynamic because you don't know where you stand, especially in relation to subjects which are a bit more subjective, like English language and literature, for example. So that is something you have to really think about when you go on to picking university programs, because what you think you're good at may not necessarily be something that you will succeed in university. And also you have to ask yourself, well, am I good at this thing? Do I enjoy doing something, or do I just enjoy getting the high grades? Because IB let me get the chance to get the high grades because I memorized the entire mark scheme. So you have to make a distinction between liking something and just the memorization you're doing for that subject.
Oh yeah.
But speaking to that, allocations has actually always been there. It's just before I don't think it has been brought up as much as it has been noticed this year. And then I really wanted to comment on the imposter syndrome thing. I also been through the phase where I was like, oh, I'm probably only getting those offers because I'm an IB student. I wouldn't do as well in an academic class. But the thing is, university, well, in my opinion, you can also kind of BS your way through. It's not like IB won't prepare you for university. It will. It is a great program. Although sometimes you might feel like it's just because I can BS, or it's just because I have done something else, or I've been inflated by the conversions. But it does reflect your abilities to an extent, and you have to trust yourself that you will succeed in university as well.
Yeah, there's definitely that positive outlook that Tina brings to the table. I really like that because, I often feel like I don't deserve a lot of the grades that I get, but, sometimes having people who have a positive outlook on things is definitely very important.
Beyond that, I also think you're allowed to have that extra little bit of confidence in yourself. If you are getting those grades and you don't feel smart enough, screw it. Like, you have those grades. Live your life with those grades.
Get into those programs. Staring contest.
Pretend like you're earning them, and then you will start acting like you're earning them.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it. Or you have made it. Just keep doing it. Like, I have this level of confidence sometimes. It's fake most of the time, but, like, it just comes out of nowhere. I'm by no means ever the smartest person in any room. But I convince myself I am, and then I just talk. Like, it's not a good thing, but it helps. Like,
if you don't have the confidence of a white man, you're not doing it right. You gotta, if you fake confidence, no one else can tell the difference. They all just think you're a super confident person. Like, there's literally don't be cocky, but be confident in yourself. Be proud of yourself. It's okay to be proud of yourself and to feel validated by your grades a little bit.
Case in point, most of us here thought everyone else was super confident, super put together, and then we started talking and we realized we're all a mess.
Exactly.
So case in point, we're like, oh, you struggling too, man?
But it's also
Thought
so
you
okay to
knew or
struggle.
do it.
Yeah, take it till you make it, guys.
It's also so okay to struggle. Like, I guarantee you there's not one single person on this entire planet of billions of people that has all of, like, their crap together. There's always something that someone's
The
going through.
45s.
Yeah, the people with the 45s, we can't. But then even them, like, they're sacrificing mental health in some ways. They're sacrificing sleep. They're, like, no one can have everything perfect. So don't expect yourself to either. Hold yourself to the same standard you would hold, like, your best friend, which is give yourself some space to breathe and make mistakes, and be proud of yourself for the things that you get done, even if it's not to your usual standard. Like, be proud of yourself for getting through it.
And I think this is like a benefit of IB is because you are surrounded by really good people. Like sometimes you might think, oh, I'm not as good. Like this year, I know all of my friends are like getting into great universities, great programs, like by February, and I'm like, where's my offer? But then I realized actually this is like it's still super early. It's like March. It's like the first, second round of offers. It is still super early. Just don't panic because everyone else is like, oh, they're doing so good.
Mm-hmm.
Because your standards are too high. Like IB really introduces you to really great people. We're all very smart. We're all very hardworking, and just know that you're in this great community. So you don't need to be the best all the time, and you're always improving, although you might think you're not.
Yes, that was so cute. Yes, Tia. I think we should move on to our next segment, which is talking about like friends. Like I think we really thoroughly fleshed out hopes and advice about Ivy. But like in terms of friends, like high school, it's such a smaller environment. But though it's the world still feels quite big. But it's like crazy to think about the fact that we're gonna go somewhere and there's gonna be like so many more people. You're gonna meet so many more people, change your perspectives on things. Like you're gonna be able to you're gonna start investigating yourself and your own identity and your own like. And I'm kind of excited for that. Like I love my parents, I love living here, but I want to know what views are my own and what like lifestyle and what interests are my own and what has been kind of informed by my parents type thing. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a broader. You're gonna meet more people and you have a broader world view.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. I've definitely had the same feeling, and that's another thing that you need to decide when you're moving on from high school to university. How much about yourself do you think you know, and how much more do you want to learn? You know, some people choose to stay closer to their parents, their hometown, which is great. You know, you can still learn a lot about yourself through that. Other people choose to move pretty far away, and that is also amazing. You have to keep track of how you want to develop yourself, and if you feel like you've been pressured into things you don't like your entire life, I would say that moving away is definitely a great choice. It's not something, you know, it's something that a lot of people are afraid of. However, I do believe that things all work out in the end when you have money. But, you know, that is the main principle of it.
And it definitely is like a privilege to be able to move away, to be able to explore yourself. It's definitely a privilege of like socioeconomic, but also living in Canada, having all these options available. I think that I would go nuts if I was living in some rural town where there was only one university available and I had to go there. I just wanted to make that point.
I think another part of it too is like with university, it's interesting because in high school, like you guys said, it's a really tightly knit community and it's one singular community, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then within university, it's very individual. Like,
yeah,
I could know these people, and these people could know like no one else that I know. Whereas like within high school, you all know each other to a certain extent, especially if you're an IB, because then there's like max like 2 to 3 classes for each subject. So then you know everyone knows everyone. And I know that like usually like when you look at universities, they always advertise like a tight knit community as like one of their positives. But I honestly think a tight knit community isn't really necessary. You know, some people you just don't want to know, and if you're fighting with someone, sometimes you just don't want that to get around all around campus. So I'm kind of excited.
I 100% agree. You can't have your drama all around campus.
Like I want to be
like imagine somebody else's fancies ending up in your room and then the whole campus knows about it.
Crazy
feel like that will
times.
happen though, Joanna, that's the problem. I think the whole campus will.
I mean, it could very well happen, but you really have to look at outside of a community you want at a university, because some people want a smaller community, other people want like a big place. And in my opinion, the bigger the better, but we all have different visions.
And you also have to like consider, is it a tight knit community that you fit into, or is it a tight knit community that you will be excluded from?
True, and like you always want to figure out like how do you want your university experience to factor into like the type of person you're going to be as an adult. Like so many people say that their life was changed because of university, and so if you want to be someone who's like surrounded by the same people all the time, then consistency is what you're looking for is absolutely okay. But if you want to like challenge yourself a little bit, see if you're someone who's a little bit more anxious when it comes to making friends, take this as a challenge and a time to like take it step by step and slowly become more not necessarily extroverted, but more confident in yourself, and like hopefully that'll help you out in the future.
On the other hand, you don't have to slow things down. Speed them up by taking IB transfer credits and spending less time in university. So let me explain that a little bit. Basically, if you've taken HLs, like your HL subject, so for example, I took Chem, History, and English, if you score, I would check every university's website, but let's use UBC for example. So I was looking at UBC med applications, like forget undergraduate or med applications, and they require you to have 2 years of English, or like 2 semesters of English, and if you got a 5 or above in literally high school, like IB chemistry, IB English, you qualify, like you meet those requirements. So take advantage of that fully. Go and skip your intro chem class if you think you've learned enough from IB chemistry. Skip it. Take those upper level chemistry classes in your first year and save time, or get more electives. If you want to finish that chem requirement for your course, you're super interested in like intro poli sci, but you can't take a year out of electives, use those transfer credits. Advocate for yourself to get those transfer credits. Harass your school counselor. Sorry, Miss our school counselor, if you're hearing this. Harass them to get you those credits at those universities. Make the most of it. So try it with your HLs. Okay, really try to get those 5s to 7s. I know it can be hard to try. Those transfer credits are definitely worth it. If you're in the US paying international tuition, those classes can be expensive. So save your time, save your money. And on that topic, I want to talk about applying as an IB student versus applying as an Ontario student. If you're listening to this podcast, I think you can kind of tell in the Ontario region. And from that, so the Ontario university application portal will ask you to apply as either an IB student. Well, actually, no, the portal doesn't give you an option, but you can declare yourself an IB student. And with that basically means you're presenting yourself to universities with your points out of 45, or you're presenting yourself to universities as those Ontario credits with your converted grade. So that's up to you. Do you think your level 5 in English is more impressive, or the 92 in English is more impressive? Completely depends. Other way around too. Like I'd argue a level 7 is much more impressive than 97 in Ontario. So it really depends. Weigh out your options. Look at your predicted realistically, really see if you can get a 7 by the end of the year if you're applying. Like let's say November you have a 7 in history, IA makes you drop to a 4. Universities will see that 4. So be careful. That's a very important thing. So I personally, besides like universities that not favor IB, but they appreciate it. So I know UBC, I'm pretty sure if any UBC applicants here could fact check me, but I believe UBC has said that they do like IB students, and so a lot of US universities too. So if you see that, yeah, make full advantage of it. Like take full advantage of it, get that preference. In Ontario, honestly, it's much, much, much easier to get into a program if you go through their Ontario requirements, like a 36, like Mac Health Sci is something a lot of people apply to, right? So they require a minimum 36 IB points to apply versus a minimum 90. Those are two very different stats, like very different stats.
The way Hanya can literally just run her own podcast with the amount that she knows about IB. No, but honestly, like everything she said was like so important. These are things that I didn't even know until basically this year. But super, super, super valuable. I think that we are running out of time, and so we are going to end off our episode by everyone either giving advice to a future IB student or giving a message to our future self. I'm choosing to give advice, or sorry, to give a message to my future self. I am a big procrastinator, and so I'm telling myself, you know what? If you can't force yourself to do work ahead of time, take advantage of it, become a good procrastinator, and start cranking out really good work in last minute. It's good. Make it a skill. Make my deficit into a skill.
For me, my advice would be that in terms of feeling inferior from to other IB students, I think you should just remember that everyone has their own talents, everyone has something that they're good at, and you shouldn't worry about the levels that other people are getting versus what you're getting. Even if you're in a class of people like where the average is almost a level 7 and you're just not meeting that, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're a bad student. It just means that maybe that subject isn't for you, and that's okay. So don't worry about that. That's my advice.
If I were to give some advice to some future IB students, I would definitely advise them to watch which diploma they're applying to universities with. I think that's really important because you very well might be meeting the Ontario requirements for applying to a certain university, but not the IB requirements. Because as fair as it is supposed to be, unfortunately, the expectations for IB are more difficult to meet. So I think that in some cases, it is definitely better to play it safe and apply with an Ontario diploma.
I'd give advice to IB students similar to Marion. Don't get lost in the wave of what everyone else is doing around you. I'm friends with lots of very smart people. Lots of people that applied to UCs, that applied to Ivies, that got into UCs and Ivies, that got into all those massive schools. And that's okay. That's like a path they want to follow. And a lot of times you'll reflect, you'll be like, I'm getting those same grades as those people. Like I put in this much work just to go to the same university that, like the same program that someone who did the minimal work got into. Not to sound pretentious or anything, but don't let yourself don't hold yourself back that way, okay? Use those experiences and that effort you put in as a prep for university where you're going to stand out against everyone else. And yeah, think of what works for you. Do not spend a fortune on undergrad, okay? Especially you future grad students, do not do that. That's the biggest advice. Don't do that.
True.
All right, I'll go next. I think my piece of advice would be planning is good. Definitely take the time to plan out what you're going to do. But ultimately, your plan doesn't mean anything if you're not going to get up and do it. And that's just a life lesson, hard earned from me.
Good.
Through many tiers, especially relevant in IB, where a lot of the things you have to really just do it to understand what's going on. So get up, get to your desk, and do your work.
That was really well said. And to finish us off, Tina?
Specifically to IB, my only piece of advice is to start your EE early.
Tina cannot hear
That's
us
like the only thing that
let us
killed me in IB. Like everything, IAs, pass marks, tests, all fine. But the EE was the only thing that really stressed me out, especially in the second year, where there were like 5 assignments due in the same month, like major IB assignments, including the EE, IAs, TOK, essay, whatever. So please start early. Like I had my topic in the doc, and there was this one sentence in there for 5 months, and I wrote the second one. So do not do that. That's my only advice.
And with that lovely advice, we have reached the end of the IB Stressing podcast. I'm glad you guys could stick around and enjoy this month-long journey with us. And who knows, maybe we'll have a reunion episode later in undergrad. But thank you so much for listening. And we hope that your IB experience is as good or better than ours and that our advice helped you out. Bye-bye!
Bye!